Okay. Hello everyone. I am Somik Chakraborty. I am pursuing PhD in Theoretical and Computational and Continuous Matter Physics from Indian Association of Cultivation of Science, IACS. I completed my BSc from Jadavpur University in 2022, and in the last year of my BSc I appeared for JEST exam and secured All India rank 162. Okay. After that, I applied to two institutes through JEST, Bose and HRI. And later, I also appeared for the entrance exam conducted by IACS, and I cleared that as well. So in total, I applied to three institutes: IACS, HRI and Bose after BSc. Out of these three interviews, I cleared the interview for IACS and HRI. In this video, I am going to share my complete interview experience, including what the interview environment was like, okay, the type of questions I was asked, and the mistake I made, and finally how you can prepare smarter and avoid the same errors. Okay, so my very first interview was at Bose, but I failed that one. Okay, but that failure taught me a lot. And these are the questions they asked in Bose, and I am just an ordinary physics student, and if I can do it, then you can do it too. So let's begin. Okay. In Bose, they firstly asked me a puzzle: which is larger, 100 to the power 99 or 99 to the power 100? And honestly, I could not give the correct answer for the first puzzle. Okay, I tried for 3 or 4 minutes, but I could not give the correct answer. After that, I lost full my confidence throughout the interview. Okay, so I will tell you what to learn from here. I failed this Bose interview, but I cleared the HRI and IACS interview also. But this failure taught me a lot. What you learn from here, I also share here. Okay. So then, after this puzzle, they asked me, which experiment do you remember from your BSc lab? And I said them diffraction grating for measuring wavelength of light. And they also asked me to explain the setup, okay, draw the diagram, and also asked about the difficulties I faced while performing it. And they also asked about Young double slit experiment, the concept explanation, and they also asked about difference between diffraction and interference, and some few questions related to scattering. I think they just wanted how I distinguish the diffraction, interference and scattering things of light. Okay, so then they went to nuclear physics, and they asked me to draw binding energy per nucleon versus mass number graph. Okay, so after drawing it, they asked why there are few peaks in the graph, especially around iron and the magic number things. You, for a BSc student, you know the binding energy per nucleon versus mass number graph. At the initial point of the graph, you follow that there are few peaks like helium or neon, and you can explain these peaks for magic number concept. Okay. Honestly, I cannot give this correct answer for this puzzle. And this why does the graph have peaks? This comes from magic number concept. I could not give the answer correctly. This puzzle and this magic number concept things. Okay, you need to know about magic number and why some few peaks appear at the very initial portion of the graph, binding energy per nucleon versus mass number graph. You need to know these things. Okay, and these were the questions they asked me from Bose Institute. So what you learn from here? One important thing is to remember, always study and revise any experiment thoroughly before any interview. I think any one experiment is sufficient for before any interview. It is much helpful to crack any interview. They surely ask you. Okay, so prepare any favorable experiment before any interview, and if you cannot answer the very first question they ask, don't lose your confidence. Stay calm and confident throughout the interview. I could not give the correct answer for the first question they asked me, and after that I lost full my confidence. I know this answer, I gave this answer correctly, but without any confidence. I think it so. Honestly, missing one or two answers does not matter much. Okay. What the interviewers really look for is your overall knowledge, clarity, and the concepts, how you think. So even if you cannot answer perfectly any one or two questions or very first questions, it does not matter or it does not affect your chances significantly. Okay, so be calm and be honest throughout the interview and be confident. If you know the answers, just tell them honestly and confidently, and if you do not know the answer or cannot give the answer at that moment, just tell them, sir, I cannot remember. It's honest, be honest and be calm and be confident throughout the interview. Okay, these were the questions they asked me, and I failed SNGO's interview. But I selected from HRI and IACS. I applied only for 3 institutes. Okay, I selected from HRI, and HRI is very prominent institute. Okay, for quantum computing and quantum mechanics. Okay, HRI is very prominent. Firstly, they asked about this quantum mechanics, infinite potential well, where wave function vanishes, boundary conditions, and the continuity or discontinuity rules for wave function and its first derivative. And they asked me a problem. Honestly, I cannot remember the actual problem of momentum eigenstate versus inertia eigenstate, but it was not difficult. If you know what is momentum eigenstate and how you distinguish from it from inertia eigenstate, you can solve this problem. So you need to know with clarity how you distinguish momentum eigenstate and inertia eigenstate. I gave the answer correctly, and they also asked about harmonic oscillator wave function, energy state, things like that. And they asked me about plotting of ground state, first excited and second excited states, and the node structure and symmetry, and the expectation values of momentum for harmonic oscillator. Okay, expectation values of momentum of any real wave function is 0. They asked about these things, and honestly I could not plot this first and second excited state of harmonic oscillator. I just honestly told them, sir, I cannot remember at that moment. I honestly could not plot this first and second excited state. And they also asked about the conceptual principles, Bose correspondence principles, bound state, unbound state things, and classical to quantum mapping, these things. And the few questions about the basic postulates of quantum mechanics, operator formalism, and measurement postulate, these things. Okay. And other professor asked me about electrodynamics. A very common question asked from electrodynamics. Any class 12 student can solve this problem. Okay. What is electric flux through a cube with a point charge at one corner? It is like q by 24 epsilon like things answer will be. They asked me. I solved this problem. And they also asked me a problem of classical mechanics. Okay. But I think the problem was very hard. I cannot remember the actual problem because it was more than 3 years ago, in 2022 March, and now 2025 November. So I cannot remember the actual problem, but problem was very difficult for a BSc student. I remember. Okay. I just honestly, I tried for 2 or 3 minutes, then I honestly told them, sir, I cannot solve this problem. The problem was very hard. And they asked about Lagrangian, Hamiltonian things and central force motion, Kepler type motion and angular momentum conservation rule things they asked. So here also I could not give the answer for plotting first and second excited state. I could not solve the classical mechanics problem what they asked. But I was selected because I was confident throughout the interview, and what I know I just gave the answer correctly. And if I could not know any answer, just a plotting portion or this classical mechanics problem, I just told them, sir, I cannot remember. Okay. But I was selected, and other questions I give the answer correctly and honestly. So I was selected from HRI. Okay. And these were the questions. So honestly, missing one or two answers does not matter so much. Okay. They just want to look for your overall knowledge, clarity of physics, not any one or two questions you cannot give the answer. It does not affect your chances. Okay. These were the questions I faced from HRI, from BSc to M.Sc admission. Okay. So IACS is my dream institute from class 10, because only one institute got Nobel Prize in India from science. Okay. So I joined HRI, and when I got offer letter from IACS, I left HRI. Okay. And joined IACS for MSc. And these were the questions I faced from IACS. Firstly they asked about Ohm's law. They start from basics, the conceptual reasoning, and the resistivity, how the resistivity depends on geometry of material. Okay. And they gave a problem about simple Kirchhoff circuit analysis problem, and how resistance and resistivity affects with temperature. This graph they also asked. And physical reasoning, metal versus semiconductor, they also asked these things. Okay. And another professor asked me a problem about complex algebra. I think honestly I cannot remember actual problem, but problem is very easy. If you know the class 12 complex algebra, you can solve it. Logarithm thing like that, mathematical physics, they asked, one professor asked me. And another professor asked me about statistical mechanics. Okay. So what is partition function, what is its physical meaning of it, and they compute average energy of a quantum harmonic oscillator using partition function, and it took 4 or 5 minutes to find out the average energy of partition function of quantum harmonic oscillator using partition function. They asked me these things from statistical mechanics. Okay, these are the questions I faced from IACS. And okay, one professor asked me about Druid model, but honestly in the third year there is so much pressure. Okay, in the third year, so I could not remember about anything about Druid model. But honestly I told them, sir, I cannot remember anything about Druid model. I cannot give the answer. Could not give the answer of Druid model portion. Okay. And few professors asked me about the conceptual question testing fundamentals of quantum mechanics. Okay. So these were the questions. And honestly, again I tell you, again I give the all answer correctly except this Druid model portion. When they asked me, I just told them, sir, I cannot remember the Druid model things. But I was selected. So again I am telling you that be confident and be calm throughout the interview. Okay. And be honest. If you cannot give the answer in 1 or 2 questions, just tell them honestly. No panic, no need to lose your confidence. Just be honest and be calm throughout the interview, and you can crack any interview questions if you know basic physics. Okay. So these were the questions I faced from BSc to MSc admission. I failed SN Bose, but this failure taught me a lot. Okay, these are the questions from SN Bose I faced, and from HRI they asked me about these things. share the questions. Okay, and from IACS I was asked these questions. Okay, so thank you. If you found this is helpful, like, share and subscribe. Okay, sorry, before I finish I just want to say one thing. If this video helps students and reaches more people, then I promise I will very soon make another video, okay, where I share my PhD admission interview experience as well, from my journey after MSc to getting into a research program. Okay, so if you want that video, let me know in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and all the best for your preparation. Okay, bye.